I know y'all can relate to this at one point in your life or another, fellas especially, right? You remember being young and in a relationship where you realized at a certain point, I don't really want to be in this relationship anymore, but you also didn't quite know how to break it to them, or you didn't want to be the bad guy optically amongst your friend circle. So instead of sitting them down and saying, hey, this isn't working out, you just start doing passive aggressive things in hope that they end things. And then optically, you're the dumpy. They're the bad guy. Well, I think that that's what the Warriors have successfully done with Klay. I'm obviously making a lot of presumptions here with what perhaps has gone on behind the scenes. But as of now, if you haven't heard the news, 48 hours ago or so, Klay did the Gen Z move and unfollowed the Warriors on social media. Took down some historical pictures between he and Steph. You see the thumbnail. And I think, again, that who knows what the Warriors have offered and what they've done behind the scenes, but I think that that's what's taken place. That's my read on it here, Saturday, June 15th. I think behind the scenes, the Warriors have been very much ready to move on from Klay, and they've passively, aggressively acted as such. And to the point of now where Klay has made the announcement optically to the world, I'm done with the Warriors. And so now the Warriors appear to be the dumpy. They have a way out. Now, the fan base, we can't be mad at the Warriors, right? Klay wanted out. He wasn't happy. He said F it. Can you tell your boy has slimmed down a little bit here? I've lost about 10, 12 pounds in the last 5 or 6 weeks. And whenever, your nutrition, your weight, all that comes together, it's always a number of reasons why, right? Hydrating more, getting exercise. But one of the main reasons I'm having success is Factor. Fresh, never frozen food delivered directly to your doorstep, all dietitian approved. Now, you guys know I've been rocking with them for a while now, and I've tried every program, Smart Cow, Chef's Choice. You've got a premium, but this journey that I'm on right now, especially in the summertime and trying to slim down, keto has really worked for me. You're going to have over 35 choices per week, 2 minutes and you're done. And I think one of the bigger roadblocks in sticking to a routine like this is convenience. Let's be honest. Right now, if you have to prep, if you have to clean, if you have to cook, you're far less likely to stick to it. And again, Factor, in 2 minutes, you're getting all this dietitian fresh food that is keeping me on track. The other thing that I'll say about keto is, I know it's a trendy word, low carbs, all these things. What I find for myself personally is, once you get over the hump of that initial 7 to 10 days, you have far less cravings if you're able to cut the carbs and sugars out and go that route. But again, I encourage you to try all the different plans. There's a variety of things. There's snack packs, there's juices, there's smoothies, and it's going to help you stick to a routine, not just from convenience, but from quality. So head over to factor75.com or click the link below and use the code Alchemy50 for 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month's order. That's factor75.com. Use the code Alchemy50, 50% off your first box, plus the 20% off next month. Ultimately, I hope and I think that this can be the best thing for both sides involved. And let it represent for the Warriors organization a true changing of the guard. It's going to force them to actually adapt, and it's going to allow the young players to step up into more of a leadership role, allow maybe Kuminga to truly become that number 2. And it's not even Klay's fault. It's his aura, his presence, and what he's meant to this organization and dynasty. It doesn't matter how he acted and how he played. That spot was never going to be available to be the second guy and the leader so long as Klay is on the roster. And so I think it can help the Warriors, again, just, okay, turn the page. This is truly something different now. We have to adapt. We have to be different. And then from Klay's perspective, it allows him a fresh start where he no longer has to play under his own shadow, right? I think his own shadow, his own legend had been haunting him because that's not what he is. And it'll allow him to say, okay, this is a new phase for me, new jersey, new city, new teammates. This is what I am now. But as we know, it can backfire, right? And maybe we don't find enough shooting, right? And all of a sudden we've got spacing issues. Moses Moody steps into the starting 2-guard spot and he's not knocking down. Now, I don't expect that, but we know, everything's on the table. Things, just like in relationships, and you part yourself and you regret things, and things happen like that all the time. What I do pray doesn't happen from Klay's side of things is that he doesn't go to a silly destination out of spite. Like, let's say the market isn't exactly what he had expected, but he's not going to come back to Golden State now under what we offer, right? Too much pride. I think we all know that that's who Klay is. So he goes to a team that doesn't make sense just to show, hey, I got my money. I was worth this. I really hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, I think both sides are ready to move on. And I think that obviously this is a sign of it. And I think the Warriors sneakily have made the optics look like, okay, maybe Klay, he was just too difficult and wanted too much money, when behind the scenes, they weren't as gracious as perhaps they had been making it sound like, of course, whenever there's an interview, oh, of course, we have to have Klay back. We need actions speak louder than words. And I'm suspecting that the actions maybe didn't match the words, and they passively aggressive got Klay to make the announcement to the world, hey, I'm moving on. I'm done with the Warriors. So those are my thoughts on this situation here. Now, about that game 4 in Dallas. Where was that in game 1, right? Listen, the fear of humiliation is a powerful tool, man. It's a very powerful tool. And you saw that in that game 4, the fear of humiliation. Derek Lively hitting the corner 3, right? First to the floor, that energy, that urgency, that fear of humiliation, they needed that in game 2. You needed that in game 2, right? Let alone, and I know you could probably say in game 3, right? But once you get to game 4, we've seen this story play out so many times. The gentleman's sweep. We've seen this Warriors Cavs play out like this so many times, right? They're going to get one. They're going to get one snowball, fear of humiliation. We can't get swept, right? We can't get swept. And so all of a sudden, all hands on deck in Boston couldn't match that desperateness, that intensity in Dallas. Hardaway Jr. goes crazy, right? I can't sit here and lie to y'all and say, oh, this means something. They figured something out. Like Luka got 6 stops in a row. Again, too little, too late. It's too little, too late. And, shout out Luke. He brought this up in the last breakdown where the honeymoon phase is over for Luka. Luka is officially on the James Harden clock, is the way I'll word it, where we've all marveled at how good of a player he is. And, listen, Western Conference Finals and now a Finals. And it's a learning experience. What is he? He's only 25 years old, but he's no longer going to get the pass of being a young guy. We know how much pro experience he's had before he even got to the NBA. At this point, moving forward into next season and beyond, I think he's going to be held to a different standard. Just like Joel has. And I don't know exactly when it happened for Joel, right? Because the injuries kind of cloud things. But the clock has officially started on Luka Doncic and Joel Embiid as far as, are you going to win a title? Are you going to be a guy, one of these all-timer guys? We know you have the talent to do so. Can you take care of your body? Can you do it when it matters? What other thoughts do I have about this Dallas team? I'm kind of giving the obituary on them already, as you can tell here. And something I had mentioned in that last breakdown about innately Luka being such a good scorer, such an effortless scorer, right? He can score 30 on a bad night. Does that naturally make him devalue a defensive possession? Because we get it. Listen, he's not going to be a lockdown, slide your feet low guy, but just stay in the fight. Just give effort like he did last night. And look, it makes sense. It's the natural course when you look at players. And that's why you see a guy who's a defensive player, but he really doesn't get buckets. Because at some point early on in his basketball playing days, he figured out, I don't really score that well. If I'm going to be on the court, I got to get stops. And vice versa for the offensively talented players. I mean, it's just a cycle, right? I think that that's innately what happens with these guys. But I think moving forward, when you talk about Dallas, they're locked into Kyrie now, right? And you say, okay, Lively showed up last night, right? Like Lively showed me everything. He is everything that I thought he was. I know he struggled a bit in these finals, but come on, man. And then dealing with his mom, like he showed up in that moment last night as much as anybody. But you say, okay, Lively, can he develop into maybe a fringe all-star center? I don't know if he'll ever score enough to be an all-star center, but an all defensive center, right? I do think that Gafford is kind of who he is, which is good enough. There's some meat on the bone for PJ Washington offensively. He flashed some playmaking signs, right? He's impressed. But they're kind of locked into this roster. I don't know what they can shuffle around here. And Kyrie, I'm curious to see how his game ages, because we know he's talented enough to adapt his game however he wants to. But is he going to adapt it in time properly? Or is he going to hold on to the flashy style for too long? But ultimately what I wanted to get at was, you know who Luka really needs? Draymond Green. He really needs Draymond. And I know on paper you say that doesn't really fit because Draymond's not a shooter and Draymond kind of likes to play point forward. But what I mean is he needs a guy, not a Pat Bev. Pat Bev doesn't work because Pat Bev isn't a star player. Pat Bev is a role player. Luka needs it doesn't have to be a superstar, a guy that's like a second or third best player on the team that can hold him accountable defensively. And I mean like cuss at him, right? Like when you think you like, and I use Draymond's the perfect example, right? But when you see Luka get face cut across the paint from the weak side for a dunk and not a peep from one of the Mavericks, they don't even look at him. And we know Kyrie's not that guy. He never will be. But who you have to bring in a third guy or a second guy that's like, hey, what the fuck, bro? What the fuck? Right? In a way that, hey, it could cause friction. But I think that that's truly what he needs, is someone that will hold him accountable in game, live, defensively. Kid can only do what he can do, right? And we know in today's NBA, like my daughter was like, I thought you said Jason Kidd he was their coach because he has the clout to kind of tell them what he thinks and really be honest with them and hold them accountable to an extent. We all know, Kidd himself included, knows, like Luka runs the organization. He can only do so much. He needs a guy that he respects enough, and the guy isn't afraid to call him out on, like in live games in the play. I don't know who that guy is. Obviously, the Draymond thing isn't going to happen. And the thing is, when you look at the league moving forward, there's not too many players built like that anymore. That's not the culture of the league anymore, right? Players, the AAU Gen Z culture, they don't really do that. You know, throw out a name of a young guy that you could put in there. It doesn't necessarily have to be young, but someone that's not like over the hill that would actually get in his face about defense. Because 20 years ago, you could find 10 guys like that. You really could. I don't know anymore, but that's what I would look for, you know, headed into the future for Boston. But yeah, Dallas, excuse me. But yeah, I expect Boston to wrap it up. When is it going to be? Monday, back in Boston.